Hello everyone. So in this video I'm going to be showing you guys how to draw Huntail. This is the image that I am going to be working with, that I'm going to be drawing, and I'm just going to give you some tips on how to draw this. So a lot of people have been asking me to create tutorials on various Pokemon, and Huntail was one of the requested tutorials. Unfortunately, I forget who requested this, so I can't share your name, but you know who you are, and you know that I'm making this video, and I hope everybody else finds this useful. So yep, this is the image I'm going to be working with. It is from Bulbapedia. I don't know if you can read the screen on my phone all that well. So I'm just going to share my process as I go through trying to draw this, and I'm just going to do the pencils. Then I'll either time lapse through the coloring, maybe I won't color it, or maybe I can make another video and color it in another video and show you guys how to color or give you guys some tips on coloring stuff. But for this video, I think I'm just going to show you guys how you can draw this Pokemon. And most of the techniques or things I will be talking about can apply for every single kind of thing that you draw. So the first thing that I do when I start to draw is I always draw a rough sketch. So the Huntail Pokemon, he has a round head, and then his body kind of snakes back. So I'm just getting in a very light line, and then I'm going to come in with another line to start to form the body of the snake. Now, the interesting part about this drawing is this area right here, where the his body sort of changes direction, I guess you could say. And so you don't see this side doesn't come, this side stops here, and then we have the other side of his body. And then once again over here, when he changes direction again, we see the other side of his body. So it's sort of like this S pattern, and it'll make more sense and later on in the video, and the fins on top of his back will help with that effect. And then at the end, he has this sort of circular tail that has these little sort of things coming off it. I sort of think his tail looks like a fish by itself. So now let's move on to his face. I hope you guys can see this. So I'm going to start to darken in the top of his head because I'm pretty confident that this line is going to be what I want. And the top of his head, it slowly starts to curve back around to, this line continues with his body. But for right now, let's just focus on his head and his mouth, which is what we're going to be drawing. So then, about midway through this circle, just draw an upside, well, not upside down, draw a very wide sort of U, or very wide curving line, and this is going to be his mouth. This is the, I guess you could say, the upper lip of his mouth. Then I'm just going to darken in this line up here, because right now it's very not dark, and it's very thick, and I need it to be a little thinner so I can see what I'm doing. And then on top of his head, right in the middle of his head, he has this sort of it looks like a fan thing on top of his head. So one thing I guess I could say about drawing is just really look for the basic shapes. I mean, none of this right here is is getting into the super details. Some people might say you should keep things light for a little while longer, but that's really up to personal preference. If you want to start in with the details, fine. The only concern I would say, or the only problem that might arise, is you might spend so long drawing the face, but then realize the body's just disproportionate, or you don't have enough room to fit something. So by doing a rough sketch, I can make sure the whole thing fits on the page and things look right. So I'm just trying to get this shape. It's kind of a semicircle shape right here. And then, I mean, this is sort of a detail, but there are these two lines on top of his head. So, I mean, maybe I'm sort of contradicting myself, but you put details in when you feel that they're ready, but just know that anything can be erased at this point, and don't get too attached to any line. So, moving on to his mouth. Now, sort of starting a little ways in from the left side of the, I guess, upper lip, I'm just going to call this an upper lip, we have this gently curving line that curves inward and then outward. And it extends really, really far out. And on the other side of his mouth, we have the same sort of line, but it's inverse. So this one was curving in like that. This one's going to curve in the opposite direction. Now, this line here is going to be the lower lip. Well, this line is going to be his the bottom of his mouth, so the top part of his lower lip. So I'm going to continue the bottom of his lower lip. It comes to sort of like, it squares up a bit right here, and then there's a little bit of a curve. Hope my hand's not in the way. There's a little bit of a curve where it curves in slightly. Pardon me turning the page. I'm just trying to make it easier for me to draw this line. So there, I hope you can see it now. He sort of has like a cleft chin, and then so the line curves in a little bit, and then it comes back out into a nice sort of rounded shape. Now, the bottom of his lower lip does not connect to this line. It goes past that line, just like this, and connects into the body. And then this line that we drew earlier is going to attach right in here. So this is basically his jawline. That would have been a good word to use earlier as I was trying to describe this line. So now let's finish drawing his mouth. Now, so come back up to this area where we made, I guess, the left side of the side of his mouth, and follow that line again, but leaving a little bit of a gap. So you follow that line again, making sure you get the same curve. When you come down to about here, you're still sort of following the same curve as we did earlier with the jawline, lower lip, whatever I called it. I don't even remember. And this line that I'm working on right now is going to go in and hook like that, and hopefully now you can see how we have created his mouth. So I'm going to just go ahead and draw that. And there we go. So now we have his mouth. Next, I'm going to add his teeth. I'm pretty confident with the way his head is looking, so I think we can go in and add some details like the teeth. Now, he has one tooth over here that seems to sort of be like, it almost looks like it's outside his mouth. And teeth, like in most Pokemon, are basically rounded triangles. Like, I would not make these lines straight. I would make them rounded a little bit. And he has 3 teeth sort of spaced relatively equal distance from each other. I'm not focusing too much on the spacing. This tooth is important to pay attention to because you're seeing it at an angle, so the outer edge or the left edge of this tooth should curve more, or I was going to say curves more than the inside edge. If you guys see what I mean, like both of these teeth, I'm curving the lines basically the same amount. Then Huntail has 2 teeth at the bottom. There's one tooth right here where the bottom part of the tooth fits into this bottom curve. So extend the line straight up from where I guess the curve starts. Extend the line straight up, and then curve it back down and erase the lines you had in there, and boom, you have one of his teeth. You might have to play around with the lines to make it look make it look right and make it look how you want. Just fixing these lines. Then we get another tooth over here, and it is similar to the ones we drew up there. I didn't like the way the lines looked. They were a little too straight, so I'm just going to erase it and curve it back in. So there we go. We basically have Huntail's face. Now we can draw his eye. Now his eye is on the side of his head, right about here, and it's just a circle. Well, it's actually multiple circles, but the outer part is a circle, so you can sketch that in there. So once you have the circle, then there is actually an inner circle. So again, just like we did with the mouth, follow the curve that you already drew earlier. In this case, just draw another smaller circle inside there. And then he has a pupil, and that's basically it for the eye. The pupil's right in the center. You could probably experiment and move the pupil where you want, but I'm just going to stick with the photo and draw the pupil right in the center. Ooh, one more thing we have to do for the mouth is draw his tongue. His tongue is basically a circle in his mouth. And you don't see all the circle because it is obscured by the teeth and by the lower lip, upper part of the lower lip, this line right here. So as you see, I started the circle from here, just kept the curve going around. It passes, it looks like behind the teeth, and then comes back over this way. It's okay if it's not a perfect circle. It's not a perfect circle in the image. So I think this is fine. Next, I'm going to draw. He has two little Huntail has all these little orange things on its body, one on its head, but he also has two down here. So there's one over here that's basically like a triangle. Well, it's sort of like the same shape as the teeth, and it's basically just like that. I finished drawing it while I was talking. So just right here, sort of on the squarish part of the chin that we drew earlier, where there's a slight curve, just draw the similar shape for the tooth. Now, we have another thing over here, but this is a half semicircle, and I think the reason the shapes are different is because we're looking at this one at an angle. So the half semicircle one starts right even with this line that we drew on the edge of this tooth. If you extend the line down, that's where the start of the semicircle should be. And continue the semicircle, and it's going to go all the way and hook into this part of the jaw that we drew earlier. And there we have it. We have drawn, well, no, we haven't drawn Huntail's face yet. He has two more dots on his head. So one interesting thing about Huntail that I found when I was drawing this is you have these conversion of lines, because the line of his body, I can start drawing it now, is actually hidden behind this little thing on his chin. And then you can just follow the earlier guideline that you made, but we will get to the body a little bit later. I'm going to try to, hopefully this video isn't ridiculously long, but it might be. So next for Huntail's face, he has two circles right in between the gap we put for in between his teeth. These circles sort of look like his nose to me, but it's just a pattern that he has on his body, and it is similar to his eye in the sense that it is a circle within a circle. There is no little dot in it, so I'm just going to quickly draw these, and you guys will be able to see what I am talking about. There's also, as I just looked at the picture, there's another one on the side of his head that I will show you guys in a second. This is just a pattern that he has on his body. So he has another one right here, And in this angle, you can only see a little sliver of it. So if you just draw a small little curve, you can create the illusion that this pattern's going around his head. So now comes the fun part, his body. So we're just going to draw the outline of his body, and then we can get into the details of the fin on his back and all that fun stuff. So I'm going to start with the top part of his body and continue the snake-like pattern. And it's a very gentle sort of S curve. So remember, as it comes to here, the curve gets a little sharper as his body is twisting around. Now this line, we are going to be able to see the whole way because it's the top part of his body where his fins are. So just going to continue this line around. And when it gets to the end of his body towards his tail, well, maybe this whole thing is a tail, who knows. We don't see any more body on either side of it. This line just becomes the top part of his body. I hope that makes sense. Maybe that doesn't make sense. Oh well. Is anything I'm saying in these videos making sense? Really hope that these are helping people. So now for the bottom line, I'm just going to follow the curve that I made. The hard part is right over here. You need to have this bulge out slightly to give it the illusion that his body is turning around, that it's turned in space, that his body is curving, that he's swimming through the water, whatever metaphor, none of those were metaphors, analogy that you want to use. So I think I got that right. And then, so as you can see, this line here basically continues up into this line, like the two meet. I guess that's a good way to explain it. This might be a little too big, but or it might be fine. We'll see. So now this line, we have to basically, it has this part of his body. I don't know how to explain it. Just how this part of his body came to a point. We have the same thing over here, but kind of in the opposite way. So turning the page might be helpful to get a better pivot on your wrist to get this nice curve. That's one of the keys to drawing Huntail, is getting these curves right on his body. And you can also see why this line that we drew earlier, the top of his body, is so important, because it gives you the sense of where his body is. So one thing that I'm going to change is there's this other side of his body should not be showing as much as this part of his body. So I'm going to adjust this curve and have it connect to his body a little bit sooner, and do the same thing with the other side of his body to make it look like his body's really turning, like he's really turning in space. So I'm just going to adjust this, erasing the extra lines that don't need. And the new body over here, it's still connecting into the back line, sort of like the spine of the character. So as you can see here, now it looks a little bit more like his body is twisting, and this is the other side of his body, where the initial line we had over here, right over here, didn't look like that. It looked like you saw his body on both sides. It didn't look like he was really, really turning. And we're going to have to do that again over here. So I'm just going to go ahead and add this. And this is basically the same process. And fortunately with Huntail, because he has all these fins on his back, you can put a fin here and sort of disguise or sort of hide this part, which we will do later. Having stuff like that to hide part of your drawing you're not comfortable with is a little sort of cheeky trick. It's not a super great one, but it does happen, and artists will admit to doing this. So next, to finish up this part of the body, I'm just basically extending this line sort of the same way I did over here, just repeating the pattern and finishing up this final curve on his body. How long is this video? This has been about 20 minutes so far. So next, let's finish up his tail, then we can draw the fins, finish the circles, and I think that will end it for this video. So the way I recommend going about his tail is to draw a circle starting from the end of his body. So just bring these lines around in a circle. And this is going to require some erasing. So once you have a circle, and this is not a perfect circle. Let me finish this. I'm going to adjust the paper so hopefully you guys can see what I'm doing a little bit better. So here we have the circle. And as I said, I think his tail sort of looks like a fish, but that might just be me. So then from the sort of top and bottom of his tail, just draw two lines curving inwards, meeting at not quite a point, or a rounded point. Let's call it a rounded point. And then you can erase that other line you had for the circle, and you can play around with the lines until you get the shape that you want. Then right in the middle of the circle, or I guess a little more towards the end, he has these two little, I don't know what you called this shape. Two little, he has this shape. What is this shape? It reminds me of like maybe a flower petal or something on the leaf. So he's these two little shapes, one on the bottom here and one on the top. And it's just gently curving lines with the same curve going in the opposite direction, if that makes any sense. Like this line I'm curving one way, then I'm basically doing the same curve coming the other way. And they should be about the same size. I think the one I made on the top is a little bit smaller, so let me try and redraw this for you guys. And it hooks back into the main circle of his tail that we drew earlier. I keep referring to the Huntail as a he. Maybe it's a she. And then Huntail's tail has another one of those circles within a circle. So let me go ahead and add that really fast. So here we are. Next, we're going to add the fins on his body, which are just going to be placed along this back line, the spine line. I don't even remember what I called it. And then we'll draw the circles, and that will be the end of the video. Maybe I'll make another video where I color it. Depends if you guys want me to or not. If you guys want to hear me talk anymore. So, while I was making bad jokes, all the fins, or I started drawing the fins, and I can't speak right now. So the fins are just these half semicircle shapes that line up right along his spine and just sort of connect. Like when this one ends, the next one starts. It's a pretty simple pattern. The one thing you have to watch out for is you need to take into account this curving line, and it gets a little tricky on the curves. I might have made a small mistake here. So I didn't. So right here, the fins are going to curve the opposite way because this line is curving the opposite way. So you're going to get a fin that looks like that. And we can erase lines and make it cleaner. So there you get the illusion that the fins are sort of curving in space. I'm going to adjust this fin right here. And then we can just keep drawing these fins along the back of Huntail. I am clearly running out of things to say. So over here, you're going to need to watch the curve of the back and adjust the fins accordingly. Like you are seeing different sides of the fins as it moves, as they move along his back. So like over here, it now is going to curve the other way, so we are essentially seeing a different side. And the line of the back is always the base of the fin. I think technically these should probably begin smaller as it goes back due to perspective. But I'm just really trying to get you guys the basics here. Maybe that sounds like I'm cheating, like I'm being lazy, but maybe I am. I think the most important part of this whole thing, if you guys take away anything, is just learning to see the shapes and just start lightly, start with a basic guideline, and that will help you go from there. I mean, I'm really approaching this the same way I approach most of my Pokemon drawings. When you draw looking at a picture, I find you can get away with more stuff. Like you can get away with starting the details sooner because you are looking at something rather than if you are making something up. If I was making something up, like making up a creature or something, I would spend longer at a lighter stage with my pencil. I wouldn't go dark really fast like I did in this one. So the last thing to do is draw the circle pattern on his body, and we've done this like 3 or 4 times, so I guess I could say something about the placement. They seem to be evenly placed on his body. I'm not worrying too much about the curve of his body. I'm trying to make sure it works, like it's not really obvious. Not really obvious what? There's not too much I have to worry about the curve of the body, I guess I'm trying to say. You can just sort of place the circles on there. When it gets to the curve, you sort of have to adjust the circle. And in the photo, in the drawing, this one is partly obscured, so that helps. You can sort of cheat a little bit and do that. I keep saying cheating. I don't know if it's really cheating. Then there's only one circle over here in this whole part of the drawing. Maybe I'll have a link to the time-lapse colored version I did of this so you can see me drawing a much better Huntail and you can get a better sense for what I'm preaching. Maybe preaching isn't the right word. So yeah, there are all the circles. There was only one on these back 2 parts, at least in the image I was looking at. And once you draw the inner circles, I think that is going to be it for this video. Hopefully this will be uploaded soon. Well, you guys won't know if it's uploaded soon or not. I could have this video made for weeks in advance, but I will probably upload it tonight, the day I make it. So yeah, that is how you draw a Huntail. This video is about ½ hour long. Yep, so please, if you guys want to see any more tutorials, whether it be Pokemon, anime characters, manga characters, or even just like more art, or more, I guess, fine art stuff in general, like even like perspective or just like a regular face, I would be happy to give it a try. I have a bunch more Pokemon tutorial videos coming up, things that people requested that I need to make. I'm not going to tell you what they are. You guys will just have to subscribe and see. And there you go. This is Huntail. And yep, just like I said, these are the basic guidelines. If you want to take a pen and ink them and then erase it, then you can go ahead and color. Just let me know in the comments if you would like me to make another video on coloring or inking, a more in-depth tutorial. If I tried to cover that in this video, it would be like an hour long and it would take forever to upload and no one would watch the whole thing. So I guess that's the end of the video, and I hope you guys learned something. If one person learned something, then I will be happy. And I guess I will sign off now. Thank you for watching.